All right, mech warriors, welcome back to We Slay Dragons. I'm your host, Saigan, also known as Steven. Depends on where you know me, depends on where you're coming from. I'll answer to either. I'll answer to hey, you. But as promised, and I'm sorry for the delay on this, we are going to now use our quick start rules, our quick start set, the terrain that I have crafted, and we are going to play our first game of BattleTech Alpha Strike. I talked about these are going to be our woods. This is going to be our water. And then the base that I use, this is just felt. I got this from, I think it was Joann's. You can just get it cut to size when you buy it. Big fan of it. I'm playing on just a small card table. You can play this up to a massive area, but honestly, if you're using less units, there's no reason to not shrink it down. And we're just going to start off. We're going to do the training day scenario out of the print off of the free quick start rules. Game setup, we've got one woods template and one water template in the center of the playing area, at least 4 inches clear between the two of them. And then the first side to destroy the size 3 battle mech, which is either going to be the Marauder or the Warhammer, will be the victor. Everything is skill 3. The Warhammer has a Hatchet Man on its side. The Marauder has a Firestarter on its side. There's not a lot of room for strategy here. It's going to be very much a brutish fight. The big thing to take away is that the Marauder does have an overheat value of 1. So it's going to be in the Marauder's best interest to stay in this water so that it can sink its heat for free and get that +1 every turn on its shooting. The Hatchet Man does have the melee ability, which allows him to hit from 2 inches away instead of just 1 for melee. And I think that's all they actually have in the quick start rules for melee. There's a bit more to it. We'll just go with that for now instead of stacking on unnecessary complications. I want to say it also... Oh no, okay, so it's gonna... The way that they have it here in the quick start rules, so the way that I'll play it is it does an additional point of physical attack damage on a successful melee physical attack. So we'll go with that. I don't believe that that's actually the case anymore, but I want to try and be consistent with what you guys have. As far as things that we need, we've got the terrain out, we've got our little mech standees out, we've got my homemade measuring tape here, measuring stick. Again, I've got the printed cards put into some sleeves. You could also just cover them in clear packing tape. Dry erase marker will allow us to mark them up as much as we need to and then remove them. So we'll go ahead and get started. We want to figure out which side is going first. So Team Warhammer rolls their initiative. They get a 6. Team Marauder rolls their initiative. They get a 3. That means that Team Warhammer has the initiative. So Team Marauder has to move first. Now, we already pretty much know what we're going to be doing with the Marauder. We're going to run him to the water as quickly as possible. And it looks like he can just about get in. 6. And then 2. Almost. It's a sad day. Will he overheat? Will he not overheat? Let's find out. The Warhammer and the Hatchet Man clearly know what he's up to, and the goal is to destroy either the Warhammer or the Marauder, so let's just go ahead and have them try and focus him down. Hatchet Man is going to move up 8 inches. And then the Warhammer actually going to head for the woods. give him a bit of protection from the Marauder. As that Marauder starts opening up. Oh, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. So after the Hatchet Man moves, it would be time for the Firestarter to move. Getting ahead of myself. Just so darned excited. Yeah, I think we're just going to have a little damage race here. So Firestarter is going to move. He's got movement of 12. There's 6. 8, 9 up to the woods. And then it costs twice as much to move into the woods. So he gets another, got 3 inches left. So he can move an inch and call it a half into the woods. Warhammer can move up now. Not really changing the game plan. He might try and take out the Firestarter first. We'll see what happens. Again, with this simple of a board and very small forces on either side, there's only so much we can do in the way of strategy. This is definitely going to be a slugfest, and I want everyone to keep in mind that this is just to learn the basics of the game and actually sit down and actually play our first game, because you can read about all these complicated optional rules. You can get all the terrain in the world set up. You can get a million miniatures set up, but if you're not playing the game, then you're still not playing the game. So even starting here is better than not playing. And I just want everyone to, come away with that. I'm giving thumbs up. I realize you're only getting a small portion of my torso right now. All right, so the movement phase is over. Now we're going to go into shooting. And let's go ahead and open up with the Firestarter firing on the Warhammer. Now, the Firestarter has less than 2 inches of woods that he is shooting through, so the woods are not going to affect him. If you're shooting through 2 inches of woods or standing in woods, there's that +1 modifier for getting shot at. Standing in the woods doesn't give you a +1 modifier in and of itself, only shooting through. The Warhammer, so since he's shooting through less than 2 inches of woods, that wouldn't affect it. If the Firestarter was on the other side, it would. But because the Firestarter is standing in the woods, any part of his base is overlapping the woods, that counts as standing in the woods. So he'll still get a +1 as partial cover. So Firestarter is going to fire on the Warhammer. Everybody's got a base skill of 3. The Marauder has a TMM of 1, bringing up our target number to 4. And then there's nothing else. They're in short range. There's no other modifiers. So the Firestarter is going to hit the Marauder at short range for 2 if he rolls a 4 up. And that's an 8. So the Warhammer takes 2 pips of damage, as well as, I'm marking up the Firestarter. The Warhammer takes 2 pips of damage, and he's also building heat, because that Firestarter has the HT special for 1 at short range. So whenever he scores a hit of short range, he will do 1 additional heat. So the Warhammer might also want to make a run to the water. Hatchet Man is going to open fire on the Marauder. They are within 6 inches of each other, so it's close range. Skill 3, TMM of 1. Nothing else is in there. It's short range. So again, it's a 4 up to hit. Like I said, this is just going to be a slugfest, but we're playing, and that's the important part. It's a hit, and the Hatchet Man hits the Marauder for 2. Now, the Warhammer is a bit tankier, I want to say, Yeah, the Warhammer's got 7 armor, 6 structure, while the Marauder has 6 and 6. But that Marauder's got that overheat. So it's still anyone's game. All right, Marauder's going to fire at the Warhammer. Go ahead and lay on some pressure. And definitely outside of short range, still within medium range. Medium range is up to 24 inches. I'm pretty sure anything on this board is going to be within that. Now, as far as shooting through the woods is concerned, remember, we want to get down and take a look at it and kind of make a guess. And from where I'm standing, it doesn't look like too much of the woods are in the way. I think the Warhammer isn't going to get anything from that. So the Marauder is making a mid-range shot. That'll be for 3 damage if it hits. Skill 3. No attacker modifier. Target movement modifier brings it up to 4. And then we're also at medium range, making it 6. So it'll do 3 damage on a 6 or higher. We roll a 7. So the Warhammer takes 3 damage. And now it's the Warhammer's turn to shoot back. And he's going to take a shot back at the Marauder as well. Nothing has really changed. They both have the same skill. So it's still going to be a 6 for him. Remember, skill 3, TMM 1, plus 2 for medium range. And it's another hit. 2, 3. Marauder only has 1 point of armor left. The Warhammer has 2. Both of them have taken 5 damage. The Warhammer, starting next turn, though, he is going to have to contend with that increased heat. And each point of heat also affects his movement by 2 inches. Which won't affect him moving into the woods too much. He'll still be able to make that. All right. Team Marauder roll. 7. Team Warhammer roll. 2. Warhammer loses the initiative. So this is... Losing initiative is so rough. Because it always opens up an opportunity for something to get behind you. You know what we're going to do? We are going to make Hatchet Man. Hatchet Man is going to jump over the water, right like this. Try and flank that Marauder before it enters the water. Remember, if you're shooting into their back arc, you get an additional bonus point of damage as well. All right. Marauder, still pretty sure he knows what he wants to do. He's going to move into the water. That's going to eat up a solid... Going to move right into the edge. That'll prevent the Hatchet Man from getting directly behind him. That might wind up changing on the next turn, though. Warhammer. Got a move of 8. 6, and he's also going to move himself barely into the water here. Try and deal with some of the heat from that fire start. But in doing so, Firestarter have enough to get out of here? About 2 inches to get out. That's 4 inches of movement. And then he'd have another 8 left. Yeah, he's fine. So the Firestarter is going to pop out of the woods and then run up right behind the Warhammer, and we're going to continue making his day way, way worse. Okay, Hatchet Man. Going to continue putting fire into the Marauder. They are at short range, for sure. So 3 + 1. Oh, and the Marauder's standing in the water, so another +1. So it's actually going to be 5 up to hit because we've got skill 3, attacker modifier. Oh, no, he jumped. That's actually even more. So skill 3, he jumped for +2. So now he's at 5. Target modifier 1. And then other modifier is standing in water, so 7. The Hatchetman will hit on a 7 for 2 damage to the Marauder. And that's a 10. 2 damage to the Marauder. That one went internal since he took structure damage. We're also going to roll on our critical hit table. See what we get. It's a 9. No critical hit on a 9. Nothing awful has happened to that Marauder yet, unless you count, getting shot at over and over and over again. Firestarter, firing into the Warhammer's rear arc. So again, this will do a bonus point of damage if it hits. Firestarter didn't jump, so skill 3. Attacker modifiers, no change. Target modifier, Warhammer's TMM brings it up to 4. And then the Warhammer's also standing in water, bringing it up to 5. Hits on a 5 for 3 damage. 5 just barely. 3 damage. And another point of heat on the Warhammer. Now that heat won't go into effect next turn, but it is dealing with the heat from this turn. 1, 2, 3. And structure damage, critical hit check. 7. That's an MP hit. So now his movement has been cut in half. So he's down to a 4-inch move. And if you're playing with the full rules, that will also start affecting their TMM, because there's different brackets for how much TMM you have based on your movement. Oh, you know what? I'm doing the shooting wrong. When you do shooting, your entire force shoots at once in order of initiative. It doesn't take turns swapping back and forth like movement does. That's on me. It's been a bit since I've played. I've been distracted by Breath of the Wild because I play games 7 years late. And then we'll finish out this turn as I've been playing I Go, You Go, and we'll try and fix that next turn. Warhammer, gonna fire on the Marauder. They're super close to each other. That heat is making it, I want to say, +1 harder at level 1. Yeah, it's per heat level. And then he gets easier to hit at 2 heat, which he'll be next turn. Or no, he won't because of the water. Okay, so skill 3, short range, TMM 1, standing in water, 5. Warhammer hits the Marauder on a 5. It's a 10. Marauder takes another 3 points of damage. 3. And because that went internal, we got another critical check. Oof. That's a 3. That is an engine hit. So an engine hit, if he takes another engine hit, he's dead. And then on top of that, he builds heat for firing weapons. And that takes place immediately. So if the Marauder shoots this turn, spoiler alert, he's going to shoot this turn, he's going to build heat doing it. So things are not looking great for him. Does he want to overheat further and try and keep up with the damage coming his way? I don't know that he has much choice in the matter. Yeah, he really needs to keep up. At this point, they can go for a tie. I think I don't see this ending any other way unless somebody misses a shot. So far, every single shot has hit. All right, so we are skill 3, no attacker modifier, TMM 1, so it's 5. It's 5 again. Standing in water for another +1. 7. That's a hit. He did spend the overheat, so he's going to be taking 2 heat this turn, but he did 3 at short range. Normally, he would only do 2. And that is a critical hit on the Warhammer. Both of them only have 2 structure points left. It's not looking great. Check for a crit on the Warhammer. That's an 11. The Warhammer also has an engine hit. And he fired. So he would be taking some heat this turn. All right. The Warhammer would be gaining 2 heat. 1 from the engine hit, 1 from the fire starter. He's standing in the water, though, so he's going to sink one of those and goes up to a net of 2 on his heat scale. The Marauder took an engine hit and overheated, so he went up 2, but he's standing in water, so we're going to sink one of those. So right now, both the Marauder and the Warhammer are looking pretty bad. They each only have 2 structure points left. The Warhammer's at 2 heat. The Marauder's at 1 heat. It's going to be real ugly regardless. As we go into our third and probably final turn, Team Marauder initiative is a 7. Team Warhammer initiative is a 5. The Warhammer has to move first. Just going to be ugly. There's no way around it. We're going to run the Hatchet Man over here, just in case. Just in case, cover that Marauder's rear. The Marauder is going to just move up 1 inch so he gets his TMM. And the Warhammer is just going to move 1 inch over as well so he gets his TMM, circling each other in the water. And the fire starter is going to continue being a pain in the butt for the Warhammer. That's our movement. Team Warhammer has to shoot first. Hatchet Man is going to take his shot. Again, skill 3. We're in short range. Marauder's got 1 TMM and 1 for standing in the water, so hits on a 5. That's a 7 into his rear arc, so 3 damage. This will kill the Marauder. But remember, things don't actually go into effect until the end of a phase. So that Marauder is still going to get to shoot as well. And he's going to go ahead and have... oh, no. The entire team shoots first. I remembered. The Warhammer is going to fire into the Marauder. So, skill 3. He's at +2 from his heat. And then 1 for TMM, and then 1 for in the water. Hits on a 7. 3 damage on a 7. A 3. It's our first miss. The Warhammer missed shooting at the mech that's already in the middle of blowing up. It's fine. Firestarter shooting at the Warhammer. He's at 3 TMM, or no, 3 skill, 1 TMM, but he's actually at -2 because of his heat level being at 2. Once it hits 2, that's the only point in the heat skill where it does that. At 3, it doesn't go up any further. It's still just at -2. So we're looking at a 3. It hits on a 3. Naturally, that hits. 3 damage to the Warhammer. Warhammer will also be defeated. There's no need to roll out the rest of this. It comes out as a tie, which is pretty normal for this scenario. I've run this scenario a couple of times, and almost every single time it's a tie unless somebody rolls very terribly. But it's worth just doing like a couple of turns of, because it's so basic, it's so quick, and you get to commit the major rules to memory, and that's your phases, your movement, your shooting, and how damage works. And that is just the best part of playing this training day scenario right out of the booklet. There's not a lot that you're going to get out of it, but what you can do is you can still leave this out, and then you can further complicate things by bringing in extra mechs on either side and maybe changing it to, you know, whoever gets so many points of kills first, whoever wipes out half of the other person's team in point value first. So even just leaving the board set up the way it is and introducing a couple other mechs, we can make this a much more interesting battle. But I'll leave that up to you. And, you know, next time we'll either do another scenario out of here, or I'll show you how to get some super free, super cheap roads and buildings made. So again, this is We Slay Dragons. I'm your host, Steven, or Saigan. I answer to everything. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time. Take care.